side.
You also said about Europe, deglobalize, and Europe's demographics and lack of global reach suggest that permanent recession is among the better interpretations of the geopolitical tea leaves. I do not see a path forward in which the core of the European socialist democratic model can survive. And just to give one concrete example from the reality, Germany already has to cover 1/3 of its GDP for the welfare system. And that is, as of today, given all the realities that you pointed out, and you are also pointing out in your book, namely that 15 to 20 million Germans will get retired in the next decade altogether. I mean, this is already 1/4 of the whole population. Is it that we have practically built a socialist democratic model while actually capitalizing on the security dividends from the American umbrella, so to say?
Oh, absolutely. That's why. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, if you look back at Europe's history, it's a little rough. And so coming up with a political economic model that kept political protest under control and incorporated it into the political system rather than involving shooting, this is a big win for Europe. But because of the urbanization trend, it's been a one-off. What we're going to see over the next decade, maybe 2 decades, is as the United States pulls away from maintaining the economic coherence of the broader system, the EU, I think, is going to go away. As the Germans hit mass retirement this decade, it's going to be impossible for the Germans to pay for the existence of the European Union. If you take the single biggest provider of funds and turn them into a net beneficiary, there's no way the EU can survive in that environment. You will have countries leaving left and right, with probably the French the first out the door. The French, ironically, have one of the best demographies in the advanced world. And so the idea of France being the single largest payer into EU in order to subsidize the existence of Germany, oh my, I don't see that happening. The French plan since the beginning is to get the Germans to pay for everything. It's not going to work once we get to that point, which means that we're going to get a regional breakup of the European system. You'll probably get a Scandinavian network where the demographics are pretty good and the partnership with London and Washington is tight. We're seeing that already with the Swedes and the Finns moving towards NATO. You'll definitely get a Francophone world that is all its own. Iberia will probably, under Mexican sponsorship, apply for NATO membership. And then there's the big open question of what happens in Central Europe, because that's where the demographic decline is most extreme. And unlike the Italians, they're on the wrong side of the Alps. They can't be a pocket power by themselves that's easy for the US to pick up. It's just too big of an area with too entrenched of economic issues. And so the question in the United States will be, are there countries in the future for Europe that we are willing to pay for them to continue to exist? And before you rule that out completely, remember, we've done that for Israel and Armenia and Egypt and Jordan for a very long time. So you can't rule it out. It's just that Germany is a lot of water to carry. That's a big place with a big economy, and supporting it will not be cheap. This is not Greece. This is a real hefty place. That'll be expensive.
And that